Okay, and welcome to this next demo video where I will be installing and configuring a PFSense software-wise firewall. Now, I have already previously gone through the process of installing this new virtual machine to my VMware workstation where I'm running this software with the PFSense ISO image file. I am also running this VM with two bridge network adapters, and we will now go on to finalizing the installation and configuration of the firewall. Now, just as a quick disclaimer, we will not be configuring any actual firewall rules in this demo. This is just more to give you the idea of simply managing the basic setup for this firewall. So let me bring up my VMware here. Now I have already booted up my VM, and the first thing we do is we get to this first copyright page. Now we are in a Linux platform where we aren't able to use our mouse pointer. All of our interaction here will be more command line interface related, where we will be using the keyboard to enter our choices. So first thing here, you just start by clicking in the empty space and the pointer will disappear. And now we're going to be using the keyboard. So I will go ahead and hit enter here to accept. And then now it will ask, do you want to install the PFSense? So we will go ahead and hit enter again. Next screen is asking, how would we like to build our storage? So ZFS is the concept of managing storage that runs on the operating system for machines where you have less than 8 gigabytes of memory. On this VM install, we are running with only 4 gigabytes of memory. So we're going to go ahead and go with the first option, ZFS. Just hit enter. So here's just probing devices. This can take a while. And so next option here, basically just asking if we are ready to proceed with the installation. We're going to go ahead and hit yes and select. And then we get to this ZFS configuration. So this is essentially saying, would you like to build a stripe volume, which is basically asking what type of storage do you want to use? So inside storage, we have dynamic disk and basic disk. A basic disk comes up with a single hard drive, where a dynamic disk is a combination of multiple disks. In dynamic disks, we can create different types of volumes, not partitions, which relate to a basic disk setup. For volumes, we have the 5 different types: spend volume, stripe volume, mirror volume, RAID 5 volume, and simple volume. So this is simply a question about which part of storage to use. Stripe provides no redundancy in installation because we are working with a single hard drive in this VM. We are going to go with this option. Just click back in here and we'll go ahead and hit enter. Now for this configuration option, it's asking you which hard drive you have. So this is our VM hard drive, and you actually need to, for this selection here, hit the space bar to mark this option. If you don't, the firewall will not find the storage that you're wanting to use. So you'll actually see a little asterisk pop up when you check that option for you, and then you'll hit enter. Now, this just warns you before proceeding that this is the last chance to make a change before proceeding with destroying the current contents of your disk. By selecting this option, you are formatting whatever data you have in your hard drive. It'll format everything and give you a clean installation in your storage. This is fine, so I'm just going to arrow over to yes and hit enter. Now it's going to format everything, and then this will take a little bit of time. After this finishes, it's going to ask me to reboot the machine. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just pause the video, and I will resume it when we are ready after the reboot here.
Yeah. Find some drag wheel. Make the rear wheels fit.
Okay, so welcome back. We have now installed and rebooted our PFSense firewall, and now we are on the main home screen where we can finish up the installation and configuration of our firewall. So our first step here is to change the our IP address to match the network of the lab environment we are currently in. So I am working today with one firewall and one client computer. Well, I'm going to go to my client 10A computer as I have it labeled. And in client 10A, we're just going to open up our command prompt. And I want to check my IP address. IP config. And here we can see we have our class A network with the 10.0.0.3. So now we're going to go back to our PFSense firewall. And if you look closely here, we can see that we have these two networks available here, one WAN and one LAN. Both of them marked as Ethernet 0 and 1, which the system is choosing to use as our DHCP and LAN services. Now we're going to change the IP address interface to match our Class A network, which our client machine is currently on, which is the 10.0.0.0 network. So from our menu here, we're going to go ahead and select the option 2, set interface IP address. So if I just enter 2, now we're going to enter the number for the interface we want to change, which is our LAN network. So we will enter 2 again. And here this is saying if we want to assign IPv4 address via a DHCP server. Because we want to set our IP address manually, we're going to go with no. So I will enter N. And now it asks for our new LAN address, basically the IP address we want to assign to our network adapter. So as per our lab environment that we are working in here, we have our internal IP set to 10.1.1.1. We'll hit enter. Next, it says enter the new LAN IPv subnet bit count. So this is the bit count to essentially match our Class A network. So here we're simply going to enter the number 8. Next, it simply says hit enter for the LAN network that we're working on. So we'll just hit enter. Next, here it's asking if we want to configure a DHCP or an IPv6 address for our DHCP LAN interface. That's going to be a no. Enter new IPv6 address or press enter for none. We will hit enter. Next question here. It says, do we want to use our LAN network as a DHCP server so that our LAN network can distribute the IP addresses to the end user? If you want to do that, obviously it's possible here, but for that we would end up setting up an IP pool and then assigning IP addresses from the DHCP server. So in a large enterprise type environment, you might see this where your firewall is distributing the IP addresses to the network. But for our demonstration here, we're going to be keeping it simple with just static IP addresses. So for this portion here, we're going to hit no. And next question is, do you want to reserve or revert to HTTP as the web configurator protocol? So by default, all browsers require secure access. After we connect with the firewall, we'll log in from our client side and it will come up with the HTTPS protocol, which is the secure version of HTTP and uses certificate services. So by default, the web configurator comes up with the HTTPS version, which is a version we want to use. Just be sure that your certificate is trusted and from an authorized organization that issued their certificate. So for this question, revert to HTTP, we're going to say no. And then now here it shows us our browser address, which is the HTTPS 10.1.1.1. For this portion here. Next, we're just going to hit enter to continue. Now we're back on our main screen here. Now, if you look closely, you can see our new IP addresses for our network. So we're going to go back out to our client 10A machine and we're going to ping our firewall to ensure that we have connectivity. Go to here. I'll say destination host unreachable. Okay. Destination host unreachable, but we did get the for sent and received. It is a successful connection. If we have an unsuccessful ping, you may need to reboot the firewall, which is good practice to do anyways for being on the safe side and making sure that your configuration and connectivity is successful. So for this, I will go back and reboot. But before I reboot, I want to check the password and login information for my web configurator. So I'm going to go back to my PFSense firewall here, and we will select the option 3, reset configurator password. Enter there. And so this says the web configurator admin password and privileges will be reset to the default, which is PFSense. Do you want to proceed? No. Essentially here we have the two choices. Say no and set your own password, or say yes and keep the default password. For the sake of keeping this demo simple, I'm going to say yes. And then it shows us our password has been reset and the default username is the admin. Remember to set the password to something else other than the default as soon as you have logged into the web configurator. Now here we will go ahead and hit enter. Go. And then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and reboot the system. So I will enter 5, reboot. Yes, since we'll reboot, this may take a few minutes depending on your hardware. Do you want to proceed? Reboot normally? Yes. And I'll go ahead and pause here while this all resets. Okay, so our firewall has rebooted here. I'm going to go back to my client computer and I'm just going to try that ping one more time. See if we can get a more successful connection here. There we go. It looks like we are getting the replies this time. So host is now reachable after the reboot. There we go. Okay, so it looks good. So now from our client 10A machine, we're going to log on to our website here with the URL. Open up my Microsoft Edge. Give all this here a moment to load up. Okay, so for my URL, I'm going to enter in the URL for my PFSense firewall, which was 10.1.1.1. Enter. Okay, so we did have that come up. It gives us this, your connection is not private. If we select advanced here and go to continue anyways. This should get us to the point where we are able to configure our PFSense file. There we go. So now we are on the sign-in screen here. So if you remember from our firewall install, our user credentials are going to be admin with our password being the PFSense. You just sign in. This takes a little bit to accept. There we go. So we get to the welcome to PFSense screen. We'll wait here while the initial setup wizard starts. Okay. So now that we're in, we get to this PFSense setup wizard. We're just going to hit next. And here on this portion, we basically just see that we get support here from Netgate, which is the authorized distributor for selling the licenses and appliances for PFSense. So we're just going to hit next again. Now here on this general information page, it asks you to set the host name, domain, and DNS servers. We're not going to be adding any DNS servers for this demonstration, so we're simply going to keep the host name of PFSense to use rather than a URL. I'm going to just go to next. And now here it asks about your time server option. So time server is a server that helps your system update with timely certificates. So based on time synchronization, you can access your resources securely. So we essentially set our time zone here. I'm going to select my time zone of US Mountain. We'll go to next. And so the next screen here, we have configuring our WAN interface. So for WAN, we'll go with DHCP as we are getting the IP from our internet service provider. There are plenty more configurations here, like you can adjust your MAC reservation, followed by all these other options. You have your static IP configuration, DHCP client, PPPoE configurations, PPTP configurations, these RFC 1918 networks, block background networks, a lot of different options here. For the fact or the simplicity here, we're just going to scroll down and we will hit the next page, kind of leave all those default settings. Here we just verify our IP address, the 10.1.1.1 with our subnet mask. That's fine. We'll go to next. Now for this portion here, basically asks you to change your password. If you change the password, it will ask you to reconnect to the PFSense here. We're going to go ahead and leave it as is for the simplicity of this demo. I'm just going to go to next. And we're going to go ahead and reload with the new changes. You to wait while the reload is in progress here. And so it says, congratulations, PFSense is now configured. We can go ahead and finish here. This is just bringing up our PFSense main dashboard here and just finalizing the final information here. Retrieving the final support information here, obtaining the update status. Okay, so after updating there, we get to this final copyright and trademark notice. Here we just need to accept and close. And so now we get to this final dashboard screen here. So to the left here, we can see our DNS servers showing our public IP address. This 75.75.75.75 there. And then we have our WAN and LAN interfaces over to the right. Now, if I try to open a website right now, like if I try to do google.com, it will not currently let me because we have not added our firewall DNS addresses and the default gateway. So I am going to go the network configuration connection settings here, which I had just opened up. There we go. So we will just right click here and go to properties to update those addresses. Here we will go into our IPv4 settings, go to our properties, and here we're going to update our DNS server. So we'll update our preferred DNS as well as our alternate DNS. So if you recall, when we were on our PFSense dashboard, our preferred DNS was, pop that up here, is 7575757.5. Let me go back to that. We will enter that here. And then for our alternate DNS server, we'll go ahead and just enter Google's local DNS server 8.8.8.8. And let me go ahead and hit OK. Close there. And close here. And so now when I go to try to go bring up google.com, give this some time to load. Okay, so going to the google.com page saying we cannot reach this page, but I did forget one step on when we were updating our DNS server addresses. When I go to bring back up our network connection here, going back to update the IPv4 properties, we also need to update the default gateway. I'll just bring that up here. And our default gateway, as remember, was the 10.1.1.1. I'll hit OK there. Close. It's going to update. Now let me try. Now be added to the network here. I will hit yes. Okay. And then I will just go ahead and hit refresh here for the google.com page. And you can see down the bottom here, looks like we now have internet access. And there we go, success. We were able to bring up the google.com page. So this is just one of the ways that you can use the firewall to assist in internet browsing. Now, to make sure I don't go too long in this video, I'm just going to give a little more information into firewall configurations you can do to actually set firewall rules. So let me go back to my PFSense homepage here. So when you go into the firewall rules up at the top here, select firewall and go to rules. A second to load up here. And so it gives you these options here of the WAN and LAN. So as far as the firewall rules, you will see for WAN, there is no rules. Everything is blocked. If you go to the LAN setting here, you can see there are some rules applied by default here, showing us the port 443 and 480. We can see the subnets for IPv4 and IPv6 with the default set. Now, say if you wanted to add a rule, you would go to add here. And then this will bring up the edit firewall rules menu where you can set different actions. So like say, allow, pass, block, reject. You could disable rules. You get to choose your interfaces here, whether you want to work with the LAN or WAN network. The address family, whether it's IPv4, IPv6, or if you want to do both. You have your list here of different protocols, ranging from TCP, UDP, ICMP. Kind of pick or choose here, or you can go with any. Down on the source, you have your source, IP addresses, your destination. You can choose your protocols, who sent the packet, where it's going. So really just kind of a quick surface level look here at all these different options that you have for setting these firewall rules, which you will likely see more in depth in like an enterprise type of environment. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, and in another demonstration, we'll go a little bit further into working on setting some of those firewall rules. But for that demonstration, I will actually be working off of a different software firewall from the Sophos brand, just so we can get an idea of the different types of user interfaces for them as well. So again, thank you for your time here and hope to see you in the next video.